given?
Well, it varied. We had, of course, started out with original on-off keying, or FS, what they called frequency shift keying, where maybe they got up to a couple of hundred words a minute. And then they went into what they called single sideband transmission, where in some of the later cases we were handling as many as 20 messages, or 20 channels, and each one of those, on a transmitter that is, and each one of those channels was carrying maybe 2 teletypes, which were operating at roughly 60 words a minute. So that would be quite a considerable number on one transmitter.
I know Chuck has a question he'd like to ask you. Chuck, do you want to...
I was just wondering, when did the whole thing come to an end? When did it stop here?
I think everything officially stopped sometime in December of 1979. I think I have the year right.
It was 78.
Was it 78? Yes, it was 78. I beg your pardon. 1978. It all, I think the last circuits that were operating were press circuits.
Yeah, I think briefly the beginning of the end for an operation such as this, a high-frequency radio transmitting station, occurred when the Russians launched the first Sputnik satellite. Because following the Sputnik satellite came a number of American satellites, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers are aware that there are any number of satellites up there now who perform much more reliably, they're more efficient, they're more cost-effective, and that really marked the beginning of the end for a large transmitting station such as we have. Then coupled with that, there are a number of new transatlantic cables which have tremendous capacities, much more than we could provide from here. So it was a combination of cables and satellites that really tolled the bells for the end of Rocky Point.
One thing that a good many people probably don't realize is that radio transmission, as we were using it here, is plagued by sunspot troubles and other things. There have been times when they had these, they call them Dellingers, when all communication out of here, or in and out, would be stopped maybe for a half hour, maybe for a couple of days. And that don't provide for reliable service as customers wanted. And I don't think that the problems are as great with the satellites and the cables.
Right, now you have various customers who it's not one customer talking to another, but you would have a computer, say, in Frankfurt or in Stockholm, talking to another computer in Des Moines, Iowa. And this is all done by data, both analog and digital. And this facility here was just not capable of providing that type of service. The bandwidths involved were too large, the speeds were too quick, fast. So you have to remember, back when this station first opened, everything was Morse code. Everything. And there wasn't this immediate communications that we have today. You can pick up your telephone and you can dial London, you can dial Cape Town, you can dial Tokyo. Back in those days, you went into a Western Union office or an RCA office and you dropped your message off, and you hoped it was delivered maybe 2 or 3 days later, depending on radio conditions.
Now, I know you were here when they blew up the last tower, and I know you told me you have that on tape. Maybe we could get you to play that someday so everybody could take a look at it.
I'd be delighted,
I know it was a very historic and kind of a sad day for a lot of people. And hopefully the Rocky Point Video Club can bring you some more interviews relating to RCA's history here in the area, because the communications history in this North Shore area goes back a very long time, actually back to Nikola Tesla in his Peerless Laboratory, where he worked on a global communication system, and we hope to bring you some information about that. So once again, if there is anyone out there that would be interested in talking about the communications history of the area, we'd like to meet with you and interview you for the Rocky Point Video Club. So I want to thank you, Mr. Fletcher and Mr. Lundquist, for coming down here today. I really enjoyed it, and have a nice day.
You too. Thank you.
We're going to continue our interview here at the RCA property at the main building with Mr. Lowell Fletcher and Mr. Mark Held, transmitting engineers and supervisors, and we're going to ask them how they got started working for RCA. I'll start with Mr. Fletcher and ask him what brought him to Rocky Point.
Well, back in 1925, when I was going to Des Moines University studying electrical engineering, I met up with a couple of other friends that were taking the same course as I was, and they were radio amateurs. And as a result, I built an amateur station and got really interested in amateur radio. And when I graduated, I went with the Bell system out in Iowa, but after a year there, I felt I wasn't satisfied. I still felt that I wanted to get into radio. So radio RCA was a real big name at that time, and I wrote them a letter, and I got a telegram back from Mr. Bells. I wanted to know when I could report here at Rocky Point. So after a few communications back and forth, I gave my notice to the Bell system out there and reported for work for RCA here at Rocky Point in 1929 in May.
What was your first conception of Long Island and Rocky Point when you landed here in 1929?
Well, it looked kind of godforsaken, and it looked like the wilderness. A lot different than it is today.
Well,
Things
this
are more
is about
peaceful.
the last wilderness we have left. It's just 5,200 acres of land. I think that's why they're trying to work so hard to preserve it.
I'm glad to see it preserved that way, because I think there's not enough wilderness left.
And Mark, what brought you out to Rocky Point?
Well, like Lowell, at the time I was working at Bell Labs. I worked for a while after I got out of the Army at the end of the war, and I had applied for different jobs and was working with Bell in the city, and I got this call from RCA, and I took a ride out here with my wife, looked the property over, and decided RCA was, and this Rocky Point was my future. So I stayed with RCA until I retired.
Chuck, do you have anything you want to ask?
I was wondering, what was your first job when you came here?
Well, I was a transmitting technician, and I worked around on shifts around the clock. We'd start and stop transmitters and tune them up and repair them. And we'd work a certain number of days from 4 o'clock until midnight. And then at that time, we'd make a short shift and work from 8 o'clock till 4 for a certain number of days. And we'd make another short shift, and we'd work the midnight to 8, and then you get several days off. And I think you really needed it at that time. You were tired.
What did you do in the first year?
I did the same as Lowell. I started as a transmitting technician.
Did either of you foresee the vast changes that took place in the technology involving communication when you first started?
I know that I didn't foresee satellites when I first came here. I don't think anybody... I mean, I read a lot of science fiction magazines, and they come out with some pretty weird ideas, but I don't remember way back there of this being proposed.
So it was really the satellite that put Rocky Point out of business?
That and the high-frequency cables that they were laying under the ocean. RCA has a wide network of these high-frequency cables in the Pacific, the Caribbean, and the Atlantic, and they supplement the satellite service.
What was the biggest problem that you faced in trying to keep your transmission lines open?
Which transmission lines? I'm not sure I understand.
When you were receiving and sending messages, I understand you had a sunspot problem that would close down the communications lines.
Yes, we had that all right, but during that time, way back there was just practically nothing you could do. You just had to sit back and hope for it to clear up. But one way that they did, when the conditions weren't too bad, they'd shift to lower frequencies. In other words, if maybe the normal frequency, say, to a European circuit might be 21 megacycles, maybe they'd go all the way down to 4 megacycles, and they'd get through at reduced speed and keep the circuit open. But of course, the amount of traffic that could be handled that way would be really insignificant compared with today's demands.
During the war, what type of messages were sent, and how was this facility used?
Well, a good many of the countries, of course, regular commercial traffic was cut off, and quite a few of our transmitters were leased by the Army and also for the Navy. The Alexanderson alternators were used to transmit submarine warnings, among other things, and the some of the countries that were our allies, of course, we handled commercial traffic to them. But I presume I wasn't down in that department, so I can't say just how involved it was. But the censoring and all that made things quite difficult, I think.
Out of time, I want to thank you for talking to us today, and we've enjoyed being here at Rocky Point with you.